Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Jared Goff. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors, as well as students on behalf of the following schools: Presbyterian Ladies College from Armidale and St Brendan's Primary School from Lake Marmora, both from New South Wales. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
remember and pay tribute to Private Graham Rodgers Cox. Graham Cox was born in 1895 in Wedderburn, Victoria, to William and Elizabeth Cox. His father was a minister, and in 1906 the family moved to Kyabram so that he could take up a position in the Presbyterian Church there. Graham completed his basic schooling at the local state school in Kyabram before studying at Scotch College in Melbourne. He was well known around Kyabram as a fine, manly young fellow and was one of Kyabram's best footballers. Graham Cox was enthusiastically engaged in a number of different societies around Kyabram, including the local fire brigade, the brass band, the Presbyterian Church choir, and cycling competitions. He went on to work as an engineer. Graham Cox tried to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force shortly after the outbreak of war, but at 5'3" or 160 centimetres, he was turned down for being below the minimum height. When enlistment restrictions were relaxed, Cox was quick to enlist in June 1915. Before he left Kyabram, a big social gathering was held to wish him the best. He was presented with a number of small gifts, and in speeches he was praised as a man who was fearless, honest and eminently truthful, and a mass of nerve and muscle. The captain of the local fire brigade said that if Graham turned out as good a soldier as a fireman, then he would be an excellent one and would have a lively time. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 14th Battalion in September 1915. He was first sent to Egypt and from there to the Gallipoli Peninsula, where he served for only a few weeks before the evacuation. On his return to Egypt, Private Cox continued training with the 14th Battalion, but in March transferred to the 4th Machine Gun Company. He was described by his fellow machine gunners as a real sport and an excellent chap. He excelled in running, winning the company event prior to leaving for Egypt for France, and he was a fine footballer. Shortly after his arrival in France, Cox was transferred for the last time to the 15th Machine Gun Company. On the 19th of July 1916, one section of 4 Vickers guns from the 15th Machine Gun Company prepared positions to support an operation near the French village of Fromelles. They were in position by 5 p.m. and within an hour and a half had suffered 17 casualties and lost 2 of their guns. Private Cox was a member of the No. 2 gun team and went up to the front line with 5 others, all singing. They were sitting in the front line together, waiting for the attack to start, when a high explosive shell landed in their midst, killing all 6 instantly. Their bodies were later retrieved and buried in Bourgogne Cemetery near Fleury. Today, Private Graham Cox is buried in the Rue de Bois Military Cemetery in Fleury. He was 21 years old. Graham Cox was one of 4 brothers to serve during the war. 2 returned to Australia, but another, Lyle Cox, died of wounds 5 days after the armistice in 1918. Their names are listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Graham Rodgers Cox, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.